Madison? Been a while.
Troy.
I have so many mixed emotions and so many thoughts in my brain right now about the most recent episode of Fear the Walking Dead. This review is going to be half rant. I'm going to let you know that I didn't watch the trailer for the second half of season 8 leading into this. I was able to avoid most spoilers, and I'm very, very happy about that. And I'm also going to let you know that you should subscribe to this channel. I talk about the Walking Dead universe all the time on this page. I talk about every episode as it airs. I talked about every episode of Dead City. I talked about every episode of Daryl Dixon. I've talked about every episode of Fear since I've done this channel, every episode of the regular Walking Dead show as well. So just consider subscribing if you're interested in that, but I also talk about other TV shows. I talk about movies. I talk about survival horror video games, and everything that I do on this page leans towards the genre of horror, at least most of everything that I do. But anyway, like I said, I have a lot of thoughts about this episode of Fear the Walking Dead, especially what happens in the back half of this episode. But first, I'm going to talk about the setup. So this episode focuses heavily on Strand. We finally get to see Victor Strand in the final season of Fear the Walking Dead. He's living at this hotel in a new community. He has a new husband. He has a new stepson. He's speaking German. And he's going by the name of Anton. Victor, like he always does, is struggling with his identity. He's struggling with who he really is. He's struggling with his guilt. And he chooses to just pretend to be someone else named Anton. And very early on in the episode, Madison shows up, and we get our very first Madison Strand reunion in this new era of Fear the Walking Dead. And for the most part, it was a very heartfelt scene, in my opinion. I liked it when they hugged. It was clear that the characters still cared about each other. However, that's cut short very, very early because Madison hears the other characters calling him Anton, and she, for some reason, feels the need to call him out and tell everyone and their grandmother that that's not Anton, that's Victor Strand. And it really, really confuses me why she would do this. Yes, she knows Victor since the start of the apocalypse. She knows he's a manipulator and a liar, and she knows that it's hard to trust him even though she cares for him, but she doesn't know the situation that he's in. She doesn't know what predicament he's in. She doesn't know if he's a prisoner or if he's in trouble. She doesn't know why he's doing this. So I feel like she should have at least given him the benefit of the doubt, asked him why he's doing this, and at least given him a chance to explain longer than the chance that she did give him to explain. But between Victor re-meeting Madison and that rekindling the feelings he had for her and how he cares about her and how he cared about Alicia, and he has flashbacks to season 7 when he was a dictator murdering people. And all of this is the main theme of this episode. Victor, again, struggling with his past and his future and who he wants to be and who he doesn't want to be and who he truly is versus who he just is desperately trying to be and who he's always tried to be, at least for the most part. And as the episode progresses, Victor tells Madison basically the backstory of them leaving on rafts and some people getting separated, some people joining Padre, and some people ending up on their own. And within this conversation, he mentions that a lot of people died, but he didn't give names, and I really hope he does give names because I have a feeling, just my gut is telling me we're not gonna see a lot of Fear characters that we've grown to know. At this point, I highly doubt we're gonna see Sarah. I highly doubt we're gonna see Wendell. Josiah, not that he was a huge character, but I highly doubt we're gonna see him. Luciana, not sure if we're going to see her, but he mentions a lot of them have died. And I hope that none of the main characters that we cared about died simply because they starved, like he alluded to, because that would be a lame send-off for a lot of characters that we like. But if they died, I hope we know exactly why, and I hope we get confirmation, because I don't want to live forever wondering if they're alive out in the universe somewhere or if they're not. And then eventually, people come looking for Madison, a new group of villains that we don't know who they are. We've never seen any of these characters before, but they're looking for Madison. And Strand eventually is gonna turn her over to them, and then he tries to help her escape, and he's just all over the place. But that's a new plot point in the second half of this season, is that people are looking for Madison. And then eventually Madison is captured and Victor is captured, and then they're brought back to Victor's new community where everyone is being held hostage. And we finally learn who is after Madison and who's been hunting her down this whole time. And now I get into my semi-rant. And that person ended up being Troy Otto from Season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead. Season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead is an S-tier season of not only the Walking Dead universe, but it's one of my favorite seasons of any television show ever. And Troy Otto is arguably most likely my favorite antagonist in the entire Walking Dead universe. Season 3 was just on a whole different level from anything Fear the Walking Dead has done before that or since. The writing in Fear the Walking Dead was the most intricate, most mature, most just well-written season that we've ever gotten of Fear the Walking Dead. Every single character was incredibly believable. Every single character's motivations were incredibly believable. The dialogue was some of the best dialogue, probably the best dialogue in any singular season of the Walking Dead universe, in my opinion. The production value was incredible. The direction was incredible. The plot line was really, really good. And everything that I just praised Season 3 for can also be said about Troy Otto as a character. He is the most human villain that the Walking Dead universe has ever produced. From his abusive childhood to being raised by his not so subtle racist father, to his very clear mommy issues in the storyline and the character arc that he had with Madison, to the brotherly bond that he had with Nick. Troy Otto did some horrendous things in Season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead, but us as the audience, us as the viewers, always seemed to forgive him because the writing was so good for him, because he was such a likable character. The audience was forgiving him much like the characters he was surrounded by were forgiving him for the most part. There were so many times in that season, Season 3, that he should have been killed, that he should have been murdered, and he wasn't. People kept forgetting him because of just how deep and complex his character arc was. And his death scene in Season 3 was one of the best death scenes that I've ever seen in any TV show ever. The way that every character arc climaxed in that moment was incredible. And that was the Dave Erickson era of Fear the Walking Dead. And now I do want to say that I am a Fear the Walking Dead defender. I've defended the new era of Fear the Walking Dead ever since it started in Season 4. So just know that I enjoy Fear the Walking Dead more than most people. I think that it does a lot of things good. I think that Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 and onward has done a lot of things better than the main Walking Dead show. Hell, Season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead is also, in my opinion, an S-tier Walking Dead season. So before I say what I'm about to say next, just know that I like Fear the Walking Dead. I've defended it more than most people. But with that said, everything that the new showrunners have done, everything that the new writers have done Season 4 onward hasn't touched Season 3. It doesn't even hold a candle to Season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead. And I just don't know if the new era of Fear the Walking Dead can do justice to a character as good as Troy Otto. Like, look how lame a lot of OG Fear the Walking Dead characters have gotten since Season 4 compared to Seasons 1, 2, and 3. And in my opinion, Troy is a more interesting, complex character than any other original Fear the Walking Dead characters, except for maybe Nick. So I am just so fearful that they are going to butcher his character, bringing him back. I just feel like they should have left well enough alone and left him dead in the dam in Mexico. And it also just feels lazy. They recreated Fear the Walking Dead in Season 4. They got rid of a lot of main characters that we cared about. They got rid of a lot of plot points that we cared about. And they brought in Morgan, they brought in their own characters and their own plot points. They wanted to do their own show. And it just feels so just lame that the last half of the last season of Fear the Walking Dead, they brought back Madison, they're bringing back Troy, and they just want to make it a continuation of the original era of Fear, which is honestly what they should have done in the first place, but it seems too little too late. But with all that being said, I'm not above fan service. Half of my brain is saying everything that I just said. The other half of my brain is watching Fear the Walking Dead and seeing Troy on screen and seeing Madison on screen and seeing Daniel and Victor and the OG Fear the Walking Dead cast on screen. And the other half of my brain is just so excited to see what happens next week, because what if I'm wrong? What if they do it justice? What if it's really, really good. And honestly, even if it's bad, if the writing doesn't do Troy justice, I have a feeling that the actor that portrays him is good enough to at least give it his all in his performance and let us see the OG Troy in there, even if the writing doesn't. But anyway, let's get back to some plot details. Troy has everyone hostage. He tells his motivation that he wants to take over Padre. He blames basically everything wrong in his life on Madison. He blames Madison for the destruction of the Broke Jaw Ranch, the death of his father, the death of his brother, the death of everything that he cares about, including the supposed death of himself. And a lot of that isn't wrong. I mean, for the most part, she is at least partially to blame for Jeremiah's death, even though Nick was the one that pulled the trigger. But Troy is responsible for his own brother's death. He's responsible for the destruction of the Broke Jaw Ranch. But obviously, Troy, being the sociopath that he is going to want to blame everything on Madison. I just hope that the writers know that's what should be happening. Like, I hope in the writers' minds they're having Troy blame everything on Madison because he's a sociopath, not because they want the audience, because they want us to actually think Madison is responsible, therefore giving him a legit justification for what he's doing. Like, I hope they're not trying to rewrite history, and what they're actually doing is pushing the sociopathic tendencies of him as a character. And Troy takes out Alicia's arm and he says that he killed Alicia and she's left wandering in Mexico, which, if that's true, that's really, really, really disturbing. But I don't think that's true personally. I think obviously he re-met Alicia and he probably tried to kill her, but I think she probably escaped, but he got a hold of her arm and it broke loose. That's what I think happened. It also kind of bothers me that Troy didn't ask Madison about Nick and if he was alive, because he definitely would want to know if Nick is alive. There was this weird twisted bond between those two characters, and even though a lot of years have passed since then, he still would want to know. But I'm gonna forgive that for the most part, because he probably got the knowledge that Nick was dead from Alicia. But anyway, Daniel shows up and he saves the day, and that's the end of this episode. And despite everything that I just criticized about this episode of Fear the Walking Dead, I think this was a really good setup for the second half of the season, because all the cards are in place. Madison re-met Victor. We re-met Victor. We know where Victor stands. We know where Madison stands with Victor. Troy had a lengthy introduction. We know his motivation. We know what he wants to do. The line has been drawn. The battlefield is set. So I do think that this episode did a really, really good job at setting up this half of a season of a show. And I'm really excited to watch the next episode. Despite the critiques I have, I do think that the second half of the season is probably going to be far better than the first half of this season. And all the critiques that I have come from a place of love. I love the Walking Dead universe. I love Fear the Walking Dead. I especially love the early seasons of Fear the Walking Dead. I am not a hater of this universe. I'm not a hater of the show. I'm not a hater of the characters or the current showrunners or the current writers or anything. Again, I've defended it more than most people. I love this universe, but all the critiques that I have come from just protection over the season and the characters that I really, really love. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I hope they do justice to what came before them, and I just really hope it's good. But anyway, have you watched the newest episode of Fear the Walking Dead? Let me know in the comments. What do you think about the return of Troy Otto? Once again, consider subscribing, and thank you for watching, especially if you watched this far.